Have you ever had a dream that one day you would speak English without shaking hands, without a trembling voice, and without that nervous smile? For years I dreamed of this. Every time I opened my mouth to speak, fear swallowed my words. But then one day, something magical happened. I spoke English fluently without fear, and my life changed forever. This is not just my story. It might be your story too. And if you stay with me till the end, you will see how fear slowly turned into freedom, and how English stopped being a monster and became my friend. When I was a child, English was like a scary subject for me. While other kids answered confidently, I always sat in the back, hoping the teacher would never ask me a question. The moment she said, "Stand up and read," my stomach tightened. I remember one day in class when I mispronounced a simple word, and my classmates laughed. That laughter stayed with me. It was the day I built a wall between myself and English. From then on, whenever I saw English, I felt fear, not excitement. English didn't just scare me in school, it followed me everywhere. At home, when relatives asked me to say something in English, I ran away. At festivals, when cousins showed off their English, I pretended I didn't care, but inside, I felt small. One memory is still clear. At age 12, during a school function, I had to introduce myself in English. I went on stage, said good morning, and then my mind went blank. Silence. Everyone was staring. That 2 minutes of silence felt like 2 hours. That day, I promised myself to avoid English at all costs.
But life has a way of teaching us lessons. As I grew older, I noticed something. People who spoke English confidently were treated differently.
They got respect, attention, and sometimes even opportunities that I could only dream of. At first, I thought it was unfair. Why should a language decide someone's future? But then I realized, it's not just about language. It's about confidence. And English was the tool that gave them that confidence. That realization hurt me, but it also opened my eyes. If I wanted to grow, I couldn't keep running from English. For years, I tried to escape English. I chose friends who didn't care about it. I avoided movies without subtitles. I never raised my hand in English class, but escaping only made the fear stronger. It was like hiding from a shadow. You think you're safe, but the shadow never leaves. The more I avoided English, the more powerless I felt. Deep inside, I knew one day I would have to face it. But I kept postponing. I told myself, not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year. Then came the incident that changed everything. I was at a family gathering. An uncle from abroad asked me, "How is your school?" It was a simple question in English. I wanted to reply, but no words came out. My cousins laughed, my uncle smiled awkwardly, and I felt invisible. That night I cried. Not because I didn't know English, but because I didn't even try. That humiliation burned me from inside. I realized escaping English was no longer an option. It was time to face my fear. Facing fear is not easy. For weeks after that incident, I lived with self-doubt. Every time I picked up an English book, a voice inside said, "You can't do this. You're too late. Others are smarter." I almost believed that voice. But another part of me whispered, "If others can do it, why not you?" That whisper became my hope. I decided, even if it takes years, even if people laugh again, I will learn to speak English. I will break this fear. And just when I needed guidance, I met someone who became my mentor. He wasn't a professional English teacher, but he was someone who believed in me. One day, after listening to my broken sentences, he said, "You don't need perfect grammar to speak English. You need courage." His words shocked me. All my life I thought English was about rules, tenses, and grammar. But he gave me a new perspective. Language is about communication, not perfection. That single sentence lit a fire inside me. My mentor gave me a challenge. From today, speak 5 sentences in English every day. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Don't stop. Just speak. At first, it sounded simple. But when I actually tried, I realized how difficult it was. I stood in front of the mirror and said, "I am a student." My voice shook. I laughed at myself, but I remembered his advice. Courage first, confidence later. So I pushed myself. 5 sentences a day. That was my deal. Days turned into weeks. At first, I felt silly. Sometimes I repeated the same sentences. I am learning English. I like English. I will speak English. But slowly, something changed. My tongue became more comfortable. My fear became lighter. I even tried speaking with a shopkeeper in English. And although he didn't understand much, I felt proud. That was my first tiny victory. And victories, no matter how small, give birth to confidence. I realized fluency is not a destination. It is a journey, and I had just taken my first real steps. When you start speaking English, mistakes become your daily companion. And oh, I made plenty of them. One day, I was at a stationery shop, and I wanted to buy a rubber, what we call an eraser. I walked up to the shopkeeper and said, "Give me one rubber." His face turned red. My friends laughed uncontrollably. Later, I found out in English, rubber has a very different meaning. That day, I realized something important. Mistakes are not just errors. They are lessons wrapped in embarrassment. Another unforgettable mistake happened at a restaurant. The waiter asked, "What would you like to have?" I wanted to say, "I will take a sandwich," but my nervousness made me say, "I will take you." The whole table laughed. I wanted to hide under the chair, but instead of crying that night, I decided to write the correct sentence in my notebook. I will take a sandwich. That small act of writing my mistakes turned every failure into progress. My mentor always said, "Don't practice only in the mirror. Talk to real people." At first, this felt impossible. How could I speak to strangers in English when I could barely speak to myself? But then I remembered, fear doesn't leave unless you face it. So, I started greeting strangers with small phrases. "Hello, how are you? Good morning. Have a nice day." These tiny interactions built my courage like drops filling a glass. Slowly, the glass of confidence was no longer empty. One habit that changed everything for me was watching English movies without subtitles. The first time, I understood almost nothing. But instead of quitting, I played the same movie again and again. Slowly, I began catching words, then phrases, and finally whole sentences. I would pause, repeat the dialogues, and speak them out loud. Sometimes my family thought I had gone crazy, repeating movie lines in my room. But trust me, those dialogues trained my tongue better than any grammar book. Pronunciation was another battlefield. For example, I used to pronounce vegetable as veg-table, breaking it into two words. My friends corrected me. It's vegetable. Similarly, I said chaos as chaos, but it's chaos. At first, these corrections embarrassed me. But then I realized, every correction is a gift. Each mistake taught me not to fear being wrong. It taught me that fluency grows only when you allow yourself to be corrected. One day, during English class, something remarkable happened. The teacher asked, "Who wants to answer this question?" Normally, I would hide my face, but that day, I raised my hand. My answer wasn't perfect, but I spoke 3 full sentences in English. The class was silent, waiting for me to fail, but I didn't stop. And when I sat down, my teacher smiled and said, "Good attempt." That small praise gave me more energy than 100 grammar lessons. Slowly, I noticed a change inside me. Earlier, English felt like a heavy rock on my chest. Now, it felt like a challenge I wanted to win. I started thinking in English for small things. For example, instead of saying in my native language, "I am hungry," I would whisper to myself, "I am hungry." This habit of self-talk changed my brain's wiring. I realized fluency doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you practice small, invisible acts daily. Remember the mirror practice my mentor told me about? That became my secret weapon. Every morning, I stood in front of the mirror and pretended I was giving a speech. I said things like, "Hello everyone, my name is," or "Today, I will tell you." At first, it felt silly, but after months, I noticed I could speak for 1 full minute without stopping. That mirror was not just glass, it was my silent audience, my training ground. One powerful lesson I learned during this phase was that fear and courage are not enemies. They live together. Even today, when I speak, a little fear is always there. But courage is the decision to speak despite fear. I used to think fluency meant no fear, but I discovered the truth. Fluency means speaking even when fear is present. That realization set me free. By now, English was no longer my enemy. It was becoming my tool. Every mistake, every laugh, every small victory built momentum. Like a train that starts slow but then runs faster and faster, my English journey had begun to move. And deep inside, I knew something big was waiting for me. An opportunity that would test everything I had learned so far. It was a regular Monday morning when our college principal announced the debate competition. The topic, is technology a boon or a curse? Instantly, my stomach tightened. My friends whispered, "You can't do it." But something inside me stirred. I knew this was more than just a competition. It was a chance to prove myself, to test whether all my practice and courage could finally pay off. The announcement felt like both an opportunity and a mountain standing in front of me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with what ifs. What if I forget my sentences? What if I stammer in front of everyone? What if I embarrass myself again? On the other hand, a small voice said, "This is your moment. Say yes. You've prepared." I tossed and turned, caught between fear and desire. Saying yes could either make me stronger or humiliate me in front of the whole college. The internal battle was real, and I realized this was a test not of English, but of courage. Finally, I decided I would participate, but making the decision didn't make the fear go away. That night, I stayed awake, rehearsing lines in my head, imagining the audience, imagining the stares, imagining every possible mistake. I felt panic, doubt, and excitement all at once. I even questioned myself, am I ready? Do I really deserve to speak in English in front of everyone? I promised myself one thing. I would step on that stage no matter what. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. I wrote my points, rehearsed in front of mirrors, recorded myself, and listened critically. I practiced enunciation, timing, and pauses. Every sentence was drilled until it felt almost automatic. But beyond words, I was preparing my mind. I reminded myself daily, courage first, confidence later. I visualized the audience applauding, not judging, and kept pushing. My notebook became my best friend, and preparation became my armor against fear. Yet, not every day was smooth. Some nights, doubt crept in. I would forget lines, mix words, or lose rhythm. I questioned whether all this practice was enough. Tears came sometimes. I felt like giving up, but each breakdown had a lesson. I learned to calm myself, breathe deeply, and restart. The struggle itself was teaching me resilience. I realized that fear will always be there. It's how you face it that counts. In the middle of this struggle, one friend noticed my stress. He said, "You've practiced so much. You can do this. Just speak from your heart." Those simple words lifted me. I understood that sometime, encouragement from someone else can ignite courage in you. I wasn't alone. The thought that someone believed in me made the fear lighter. And I started to imagine standing on stage, not as someone trembling, but as someone ready. Before the competition, my mentor gave me his final advice. "Remember," he said, "people don't come to see perfection. They come to hear your thoughts. Speak clearly, speak honestly, and the words will reach them." That stuck with me. It reminded me that fluency isn't about flawless grammar. It's about communication, about connecting. With that advice, I felt a mix of calm and determination. The next day would decide nothing but how much courage I could summon. The night before the debate was restless. I reviewed my points again and again. I imagined questions from the audience, imagined stammering, imagined forgetting. I also imagined the applause, the smiles, the satisfaction. My mind was a battlefield of fear and anticipation. I slept in short intervals, my heart racing every time I visualized the stage. By morning, I was exhausted but strangely ready. The stage awaited me, and I had no choice but to face it. When my name was called, my legs felt heavy, my palms sweaty, and my throat dry. I walked towards the stage slowly, feeling every eye on me. The lights, the audience, the silence, it all felt overwhelming. But then I remembered every practice session, every mistake, every lesson. I lifted my head, took a deep breath, and stepped up. The first step on the stage was terrifying, yet liberating. I realized fear was only as big as my imagination. And then it came, the moment I had feared for so long. I opened my mouth and said, "Good morning, everyone. Today, I will share my thoughts on technology, how it shapes our lives, for better and for worse." The words came naturally, flowing from months of practice. My voice was steady, my pronunciation clear, and my fear slowly melting away. The audience listened, not judging, just listening. That first sentence was more than words. It was the victory of courage over fear. The journey that began with trembling finally had its first true triumph. As I continued my speech, something magical happened. The words started coming naturally. The months of mirror practice, small conversations, and repeated mistakes had paid off. I no longer had to consciously think about grammar or pronunciation. My sentences flowed effortlessly. Each idea connected smoothly to the next. I felt a rhythm in my speech, like a gentle stream carrying my thoughts to the audience. Fear had begun to fade, replaced by a sense of control I had never felt before. Halfway through, I noticed something incredible. The audience was leaning in, listening intently. Faces that had once intimidated me now showed curiosity, smiles, and occasional nods. Even my friends, who doubted me earlier, were wide-eyed and attentive. That moment was surreal. I realized that communication isn't about perfection. It's about engagement. The fact that people were following my thoughts gave me a rush of confidence that words cannot describe. Of course, it wasn't flawless. I stumbled over a word, technology, and almost froze. But then I remembered my mentor's advice. People don't come to see perfection. They come to hear you. I laughed lightly, corrected myself, and continued. Surprisingly, the audience smiled at my recovery. That small mistake became a bridge of authenticity between me and them. I learned a valuable lesson. Mistakes don't ruin you, they humanize you. Midway, I decided to add a light joke. Technology is like my alarm clock. Sometimes it wakes me up. Sometimes it scares me. The room erupted in laughter. I realized humor is a powerful tool. It relaxes both speaker and audience. Incorporating a small joke made my speech more approachable and boosted my own confidence. I was not just speaking English. I was connecting, entertaining, and expressing myself fully. As I reached the conclusion, I took a deep breath and delivered my closing lines with clarity and conviction. Technology can be a boon or a curse, but its impact depends on how we use it. Let's choose wisely. Let's innovate responsibly. And let's keep learning every day. The audience responded with polite applause at first, which gradually grew louder. The pride I felt in completing my speech strongly and clearly was indescribable. And then it happened. A standing ovation. People rose from their seats, clapping, cheering. My heart raced, my eyes watered slightly. I had imagined this moment countless times, but experiencing it was beyond imagination. The validation of months of struggle, practice, and fear overcame in one glorious moment. I realized that all the embarrassment, doubts, and failures had been leading to this victory. As I stepped off the stage, I understood something profound. Fear had finally lost its grip on me. The trembling, the sweaty palms, the hesitation, they were gone. What replaced them was a calm confidence and a sense of accomplishment. I could now speak English without the anxiety that had haunted me for years. That realization was life-changing. It wasn't just about a debate. It was about a lifelong transformation. Friends, teachers, even strangers approached me after the event. You spoke so well. I didn't expect that from you. Your pronunciation is amazing. Their words felt like a warm embrace. I laughed, thanked everyone, and felt a deep sense of pride. It was not arrogance, it was pure satisfaction of overcoming my fear and proving to myself that I could do it. Later, during casual conversations, I realized something remarkable. I could now speak English naturally, without overthinking. Talking to teachers, classmates, or even strangers felt easier. I could share my ideas, tell my experiences, and express emotions without hesitation. That day, English stopped being a barrier. It became a bridge. The months of struggle had transformed into effortless communication. The most important moment came when I sat alone that night and reflected. I whispered to myself, I can do this. I really can. For the first time, it wasn't just practice or hope, it was certainty. I had faced my greatest fear, stood in front of an audience, and emerged victorious. That feeling, that pure, unshakable confidence, was the ultimate reward. It wasn't just about English, it was about courage, persistence, and self-belief. As I sat that night, I looked back on the months of struggle, fear, and relentless practice. From trembling in front of a mirror to speaking confidently on stage, every small step had led me here. I realized that this journey wasn't just about learning English. It was about discovering my courage, patience, and determination. Each failure, each stammer, each embarrassing moment had shaped me into someone who could finally say, I can do this. The biggest lesson I learned was that fear is not the enemy. Fear is a guide. It tells you where your growth is waiting. Every time I felt my hands shake or my mind freeze, I knew that was exactly the moment I needed to push myself. Fear didn't disappear. It became manageable. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it. And once you understand this, every challenge starts to feel possible. For anyone learning English, the first tip is simple. Think in English. Start small. Describe your day in English in your mind. Talk to yourself silently. I am brushing my teeth. I am making tea. Gradually, your thoughts will form sentences naturally. Stop translating from your native language. It slows you down and increases fear of mistakes. Thinking in English rewires your brain and makes speaking faster, easier, and more confident. Small daily habits make a huge difference. Speak 5 sentences aloud every morning. Watch English movies or series without subtitles. Read aloud 1 paragraph daily. Record yourself and listen critically. Every day, Repeat what you learned. Consistency, not perfection, builds fluency. I started with just 5 sentences a day, and over months, it became natural speech. Habits are the invisible force that transforms learners into speakers. Mistakes are your best teachers. Every time I mispronounced a word or stumbled, I learned something new. Instead of fearing errors, embrace them. Laugh at them if you must. Each mistake is a stepping stone to fluency. If you avoid mistakes, you avoid progress. The sooner you accept that mistakes are friends, the faster your confidence and skill will grow. After my debate, a junior approached me nervously, saying, "I can't speak English like you." I smiled and shared my own struggles, tips, and encouragement. We practiced together, one sentence at a time. Seeing someone else gain confidence because of my journey felt incredible. English became more than just a skill. It became a tool to help, inspire, and connect. I realized that English isn't just a subject. It's a door to opportunities, jobs, friendships, travel, online learning, even confidence to share your ideas. It all opens with English. Fluency isn't about impressing others. It's about unlocking doors that were previously closed. Every step I took in learning English expanded my world in ways I had never imagined. So here's the truth. Anyone can do this. You don't need a perfect accent, a native teacher, or unlimited resources. You need courage, consistency, and patience. Start today. Make small mistakes, laugh at them, and keep speaking. Every word you speak builds confidence. Every tiny success is proof that you are capable. Don't wait. Your stage, your moment. Your victory is waiting. Here is a step-by-step guide for you. Step 1. Speak 5 sentences aloud daily. Step 2. Think in English. Don't translate. Step 3. Watch movies or shows without subtitles. Step 4. Record yourself and review mistakes. Step 5. Laugh at mistakes. Embrace them. Step 6. Talk to friends or juniors. Help each other. Step 7. Keep a journal of new words and expressions. Step 8. Repeat. Stay consistent. Never give up. Follow these steps, and slowly but surely, fluency and confidence will come naturally. Remember, every fluent speaker was once a beginner who dared to start. Today, it's your turn. Take that first step, face your fear, speak your first sentence, and keep going. If you enjoyed this journey and want more real-life stories to inspire your English learning, hit the subscribe button. Until then, keep speaking, keep learning, and remember, you can do this.